Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. It has been a very long time since I was here doing one of these energy transmissions. And in fact, I looked back and it was the solstice back in spring. And I forgot to check, in fact, but I'm pretty sure that today, the 4th of October, is the solstice again. I did not plan that. You can tell from the fact I'm not even entirely sure if it's a solstice today. Which I kind of think, sitting here thinking I should probably know that. Um, thank you for joining. Hello, everybody who's here live. Yes, we're here for an energy transmission. This is part of this series of 100 days of energy transmissions, which I thought was going to be back to back. Turns out it hasn't been back to back in these latter months. But I've been noticing my energy work coming to the forefront more and more recently. So maybe this is us gearing up for ending the year strong with a whole series of transmissions here live on YouTube. Let's see. Also, the recordings, you can find them at any time under my energy transmissions playlist. And they're all titled, hopefully, so that they're really easy for you to notice what you're drawn to and what you really want to receive that particular day. So I just want to share a little bit of context about this topic for today, because I'm seeing it everywhere. And perhaps really makes sense, given, as I think it is, solstice today, and it's a time of letting go of the old and moving into the new. And here in the Northern Hemisphere, we're in autumn, when the leaves off the trees are beautifully demonstrating that capacity of our nature to let go of what no longer is needed and to move into, in fact, a period of regeneration and a period of retreat and a period of inner preparation ahead of spring next year. So anyway, what I'm seeing is lots of people who are being offered opportunities to do something new, opportunities to step into a fuller expression of themselves, a freer expression of themselves, a more aligned expression of themselves. And as we come towards one of these points of transition, it's like the resistance increases. I've got this image of almost like bringing two polar opposite, same poles of a magnet together and how they push each other away. It's kind of like that. The difference with this is that whereas those magnets are always going to repel each other, what we experience as we're in one of these transition moments is that we come towards it and we feel the resistance increasing. Often we take that as a sign that we must run away and do something else. But in fact, the invitation is to keep pushing, not pushing like as in forcing, but keep moving through that resistance, because it's inviting us into a leap in our experience. It's inviting us into the next iteration of our journey, the next big movement, whatever that is for us, whatever that is for you specifically. And big is always relative. So big for us now will be different to what big used to look like 5 or 10 years ago. That doesn't matter. That doesn't change anything. It's just it's a human idea that one is more important than the other if it's bigger. It's not. It's all the same thing. It's the same process. It's the same mechanism that plays out every single time when we're approaching one of these developmental leaps, one of these developmental shifts. We see it in little kids. If you've had little kids or you have them in your lives in some way, you see when they're small and they're about to take a developmental leap, they become really clingy, they act out more, they become more challenging. I remember getting frustrated with mine. If only I'd been a more conscious parent at that time. That can't be changed. It is what it is. It has been exactly as it needs to be. But yeah, for sure, it used to be like, oh my God, what's going on with you? What is happening with your behavior? And then the leap would happen and they'd settle down. It'd be like, oh, that's what it was all about. But every time I forgot. I think perhaps latterly with my daughter, I kind of, second child, got cottoned onto it. It's like, oh, it's this thing. It's this thing that's happening. And yet still as adults, we can kind of be in this repeating pattern of, as we approach a developmental leap, feeling the resistance, feeling the fear, and yet still forgetting that that's a good sign and that the invitation is to keep moving on through it. So, as I said, I've seen this a lot around me in recent, especially the last week, but if I'm honest, really the last 2 or 3 weeks, it's almost like it's been building to this. And it's really coincided with, as well, a constellations service, which Pip Bray, if I say that correctly, Pip Bray, is going to be hosting constellations, family constellations, systemic constellations, whatever word you know it by. She's going to be hosting some constellations in a private room within the Wildford community. So you don't have to be a member, you can just independently go into that private space with her, where she's going to be hosting monthly constellations. So at the time we're sharing this, it's October 23. So for the next 9 months, starting this month, she's hosting a constellation each month for those who want to come for that particular month. Or if you want to, some people are going to be signing up for the full 9 months. And what we're seeing and hearing from people who are interested is, I'm not really sure. I'm a bit afraid of this. It seems a bit woo-woo or weird. Or people just saying, I just don't know. I'm feeling a lot of resistance to this. I'm really not sure this is the right thing to do. So for me, the resistance is never the sign of the yes or the no. Resistance is never telling us what our true response is. Resistance is only telling us the mind is kicking back against something it's afraid of. And these developmental leaps are a perfect example that it's afraid of what we're going to move forward into, because the mind loves to use past data. It's all it can do. And given it can't know the future, it would rather hold us in this known discomfort and limitation as it starts to feel now, rather than let us pass through and move into this unknown future. It thinks that holding us in this known existence now with a known past is a much better place to stay than to move forward. And so this resistance is never telling us a yes or a no about the thing that's being presented to us. All it's telling us is that the mind is rearing up and putting its defenses up to say, no, don't move forward into that unknown future. Oh my goodness, no, stay here where it's safe and known. But of course, the future is always unknown. I have no idea what I'm going to say in the next minute, never mind what's going to happen in the next 3 months, 6 months, a year. We're always moving forward into the unknown. We never recreate the past fully, entirely. Yes, there are repeating patterns, but it's never identical. And so this pushing forward is just a point in time when it seems like, rather than the sort of subtle little movements from into the unknown that happen every single second, we just get these culmination points where it's like a bigger collection almost of these little moments, and suddenly it seems like a really big deal that we're going to be moving forward into this big unknown future that looks terrifying. But it's really no different from any of these. We will still be guided step by step. We will still be supported step by step. We will still have everybody around us who we want around us to be there for us, and some will go and some will come, and that will all be perfect too. It always goes just as it needs to. So if you've been considering the constellations space with Pip, the constellations circle, then you might be coming to this with that kind of resistance, with that kind of, I'm really resisting this thing, this modality, this thing that Pip's bringing us. I'm really feeling like it's the wrong thing to do. But when it's coming from resistance, that's not your yes or no. Your yes or your no is very quietly sitting behind all of that mental noise. And so the purpose of this transmission, whether it's for you because you're in that circumstance wondering about joining the constellation circle, or whether it's another development opportunity which has presented itself and you're like, oh, resistance, I'm not sure, this feels scary. Either of those, this transmission is for you to support you through that resistance, to just give you a little bit of a boost, a little bit of extra love, a little bit of a warm hug to have you feel supported. So that just like the little kids I talked about before, who are feeling that resistance and not knowing what to do with it, and so they get clingy and they act out and all that stuff, all that little kid wanted from me at that time, rather than frustration, all that little kid wanted was a hug from me. And I will have done that too. I know I will have done that too. Really, all they wanted was love and hugs. And that's all we want right now. We think we're grown up, but we still are experiencing lots of the same stuff as when we were little. So as we approach this experience of resistance, all we want is a gorgeous, loving hug. And where better to get a gorgeous, loving hug from than the truth of all that we are? from that space of beautiful, infinite, eternal awareness, which is the ultimate love that we've all always been looking for. So that's what this transmission is providing. It's providing you with that love and support and that sense of deep okayness while you move through this resistance, while you move through into whatever this developmental leap is for you. And that if you've got an actual opportunity available that's been presenting itself, then your yes or your no will get much clearer. This soothing and this settling of the resistance that we'll be doing through this transmission doesn't mean that the thing that's presented itself is a yes or a no. That will become clear to you as that resistance settles down, as your system settles down. You don't need to know that yes or no right now. All we're doing is clearing the path. All we're doing, if you know my river metaphor, is settling those whirlpools down so that you can remember the truth of who you are, so that you can hear the purity of message that comes from upstream there, rather than listening to those whirlpools and all their narratives that are going round and round and round and simply creating this apparently resistant block across the river. And the truth of who you are wants to keep flowing downstream. It wants to keep moving in the direction of your growth and your expansion and your development. It's going to happen. And so it's much more pleasant if we can do that with less resistance in the process, fewer whirlpools damming or attempting to dam the river. So if that sounds good for you, then that's what this is for. Perhaps the longest introduction I've ever given to one of these transmissions, but I really feel that was important and valuable to share so that you have the context as to what we're doing here and why we're doing it. If you haven't ever joined a transmission before, and if you haven't checked out the excuse me, frequently asked questions, I do recommend you do that first. You may well be coming here with a very clear yes in your heart, in which case, perfect. That is the fundamental thing you want to be coming with, a good, clear yes in your heart. The frequently asked questions support you beyond that with some of the intricacies and the ins and outs of what you're receiving and what to do afterwards and all that kind of stuff. Any questions, drop them in the comments, get in touch through my website, whatever makes sense to you. I'd love to hear from you. And let's go. So we're going to have 15 minutes now of transmission. Thank you to those who are live. Thank you to those who are watching on the recording. And so you can just sit back. You can just sit back and relax. You can have your eyes open or closed. It's usually nice to have 15 minutes of eyes closed. Sit as though in meditation if that works for you, but it really doesn't matter what your mind is up to during this process. Your only job is to sit there and receive. Receive with your open heart that said yes. And when we come to the end, you'll hear the gong at the end, and I will just share my thanks and close the stream at that point. So much love to you, and thank you for being here. Thank you for joining. Much love.